So what is The Covenant? Let's talk about Guy Ritchie's new war action thriller. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Your Pass. I'm here to talk to you about The Covenant, which comes to theaters on April 21st, 2023. It's a new Guy Ritchie film, and it feels like we just saw a release of one. Well, we did. We saw Operation Fortune come out a couple months ago, and now we get a new Guy Ritchie movie. It's great. I love Guy Ritchie. I'm excited for additional movies. This one is a very different film than his previous work. This one's a little more serious, a little more brooding. My hot take is, look, I really like it. Like, I'm a Guy Ritchie fan. I like this movie. It is a war drama with some really good action, some fantastic music, and really good effects, and also just a ton of like uncertainty, and it touches on an important topic. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't want to know what happened in this film, and you probably don't, there's some big surprises in it, I would turn it off when I get to the ending section. But before that, I'll keep it vague so you can keep watching. And if you don't care, you just want to know what happens in the film, you want to find out what the Covenant is, then you can keep going. So in Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, you have U.S. Army, I think Master Sergeant John Kinley, who is in charge of a unit that's tasked with going out and finding factories and things like that, and people who are making bombs. Now, in order to help them in the process, they have an Afghan interpreter who helps to, translate things for them, but also gives them some advice on what is happening in the area. And as you can imagine, the interpreter goes out with them, helps them in their mission. It's very dangerous. They form a close bond. But then what if something happens? Well, that is kind of what this film is about. It's about the bond between the unit and the interpreter, and the things that can happen after the fact. So, things I liked about this movie. So the first thing I liked, look, it's a Guy Ritchie film. I like the writing. I liked the writing, especially at the start. It's got some fun writing. It is a pretty serious film, but especially at the start when you're meeting the unit and meeting some of the characters, and especially seeing the interaction between Kinley in the unit and Ahmed. They butt heads. There's some funny writing. There's some sharp writing, and also I liked hearing some of the kind of plausible deniability that happened in the operations, where the dialogue is said in a way that allows leadership to have some deniability, or just to like hint at what they should do without specifically telling them. It is a well-written film, especially at the start. The second thing I love is the music. And look, this is kind of becoming a Guy Ritchie staple at this point. You had Wrath of Man, which had fantastic music. You had Operation Fortune, which I loved. And now you have The Covenant, which has fantastic music. It is deep, it is dramatic, it really ups the tension. And in an action war drama, that is what you want. Especially there's some tense scenes where you don't know what's going to happen. The unit is going off to kind of investigate something, or something's happened and they're trying to fight off. When that music comes on and it starts like blaring, and really kind of that beat starts driving, it is a wonderful thing to see. The third thing I loved is the sound. Look, it's another war movie. You're gonna have to have good sound, and this one does. But it's not just like the war specific scenes, like the firefights and the explosions and things like that. What I really loved is when there are some very tense moments in this film when the sound just kind of like drops off. It gets very quiet, and you're like straining to hear because you want to know what's going to happen. You want to hear what happens next, and it is perfect when it happens. It really kind of ups the intensity in those scenes and really kind of gets you connected and gets you really engaged in the film. The fourth thing I loved is the cinematography. There's some really good cinematography. There's some really interesting shots, and I especially loved it when there are some intense scenes and you get to see the perspective of the soldiers themselves. There's one scene when they're in an armored vehicle, and it's kind of an intense scene. It's in the middle of a mission, and the perspective is only in the vehicle, so you kind of see what they see with the limited visibility you get in there, and it's at night and you can only see like where the headlights are. It is a really well shot film, and it just, again, everything kind of helps to build up this intense experience, the intensity, the tension that happens in a war movie. And the last thing I loved is the acting. Look, you got Jake Gyllenhaal as the main character. He's really good, but I especially like Dar Salim as Ahmed. He was fantastic. He has a lot to carry in this film. He has a lot on his plate, and he does a really great job. I really loved his like confident character, the way he kind of butt heads with the Jake Gyllenhaal specifically, and also the other members of the team. And he just has this kind of aura about him in this film that lets you know that he is a capable person, and he is like a dangerous person without necessarily having to say it. So I loved a lot about this film. I gave it a watch. What didn't I like? Well, things I didn't love as much. Later on, there are some scenes where I didn't love the writing as much. It felt a little overly dramatic, and there's drama happening. There are some very difficult things that are happening. But at some points, it felt almost like writing in a play, which didn't really fit, I think, the tone at the moment. Like, it didn't fit the characters and the things that were going on. It's not a big deal. There's a couple scenes where I was like, okay, this writing is a little bit too much. It's a little bit overly dramatic, things like that. It's again, it's not a big deal. I liked the writing overall, but those ones just kind of distracted me a little bit. And the last thing I didn't love, some bits about the ending. Look, the ending is overall pretty good. There's just some things that kind of felt, again, maybe overly dramatic, maybe a little unrealistic. The film is not uh, based on a true story, I think, but it's kind of based on true-ish scenarios. And so at the end, it kind of goes a little bit off the rails. So that is Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. Look, I like the film a lot. I think it's a good movie. I think you should watch it. There's a few things I didn't love. I'm going to go into that slightly and also talk about the ending. So if you don't want to know what happens in the film, and you probably don't, there's some pretty big surprises, I would turn this off now. But if you don't care, if you want to know what happens, or maybe you've already seen it, then let's keep going. There will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. So, like I said, this film is kind of set in Afghanistan, is in the middle of the war on terror. It starts in March 2018, and you have John Kinley, who is the leader of this kind of bomb sniffing unit, I guess. They go out and try to like find weapons factories, things like that. And they get their new interpreter, Ahmed, who I loved a lot. He is kind of confident. He's street smart. He knows what's going on. You can tell that he has some experience behind him. And he butts heads a little bit with John, especially at the start when he kind of questions some decisions that John makes. He kind of like does things his own way because he knows it'll be faster, or he doesn't disobey, but he definitely questions some of the orders because he's worried about what's going to happen. And it ends up being right. Like, there was one scene where he like bribes someone that they are trying to get information from, and he extra bribes them because John only wants to give him half the money and then give him half on delivery. And he's like, no, this will be much quicker. They end up getting the information. That was a good scene. And also there's a scene where they're going out to go look for a factory. Someone suggests they take this different route for plausible reasons, but Ahmed's like, there's no reason, there's no like actual reason we should take that route. Like the thing that he said where the roads were washed out in the rain, that didn't happen. It must be a trap. And it ends up that it would have been a trap. They call in some recon, and they find that there was a ambush set up ahead. So it was fun to kind of see Ahmed establish himself and establish how he is like his own person. He's helping them out, but he is also like kind of questioning things that they're doing. But all that comes to a head later when Kinley's unit with Ahmed go out to try to take out a bomb factory. And so when they get there, it seems kind of cut and dry. They find the explosives, but then they get ambushed, and pretty much everyone in Kinley's team except for Kinley and Ahmed get killed. I think they had like a 8-person team, and so everyone except those two die. Ahmed and Kinley have to like run out. They are running from the Taliban who is pursuing them. It's an exciting scene. It's very dramatic. There's a lot going on, but eventually they are able to escape, and they hide out for a few days. They're trying to make their way back to Bagram Air Base, but they're a ways away, and so they have to kind of slowly work their way back. On the second day, the Taliban find them, and Kinley is shot a couple times. Ahmed kind of hides and then ambushes them, so he takes out the Taliban fighters who like found them. But now they have an issue because John is shot, I think, twice, and he was hit in the head, so he is essentially useless. So Ahmed has to like construct this cart and basically drag Kinley across Afghanistan to get to Bagram Air Force Base. It is a pretty dramatic scene. There's definitely a lot of tense moments. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens when Ahmed is dragging him back. This is where you really get to see kind of like Dar Salim's acting chops, especially during some of the like more harrowing moments where he like kind of wants to give up or he has to like hide from people. There are some really, really great scenes and some really tense moments. But eventually he gets him back to safety. He gets them back to some U.S. soldiers. Kinley gets sent back to Santa Clarita, my hometown, and Ahmed stays in Afghanistan. Now, Kinley gets back, he recovers, he gets his strength, but something is gnawing at him. And eventually, at first, he didn't really remember what happened, but then as he recovers, he remembers the entire journey. He remembers like everything Ahmed did for him, how he like dragged him across Afghanistan. He had to kill some people to make sure they weren't discovered. He had to like hide them. It was an intense journey. Ahmed was in danger the entire time, but he did. He dragged him back and saved his life. But Ahmed is Afghani. He is still in Afghanistan, but unfortunately, the publicity of this whole ordeal has put a giant price tag on his head. So Ahmed is in hiding, trying to stay low because he's on like the Taliban's top 10 most wanted list. And John is back home with his family, recovering and safe, and this keeps gnawing at him. So he tries to get Ahmed some visas so they can come back. So when these interpreters started working for the United States, one of the ideas was they would work for the United States, and in exchange, they would get like an accelerated visa. And there's not a ton of information in this film about it. It gives you the general program. But I guess, according to the film, I guess sometimes those visas were still tough to get, even though they were supposed to be like accelerated. So you have these Afghan citizens who are risking their lives with the hope that they would get a visa, come to America, have a better life. And then the visa process drags down. And so these interpreters are in danger, but they can't get out because they don't have their visas. And so it's this kind of like problem where they are now in danger and they can't get out. So that's what happened to Ahmed. He is in hiding with his wife and child, and they are trying to avoid Taliban capture. Now, John thinks, okay, well, let me see what I can do. He starts going through the normal channels, trying to get some information, trying to get Ahmed some visas, and really quickly runs into a brick wall, either endless hold times or people that can't do anything or referrals to other agencies, things like that. He's at this for like 35 days until he finally kind of snaps and like just goes off on some of the people who are at the various like organizations, the various agencies that are trying to get him a visa. And eventually he says, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. And this is kind of where some of the writing gets a little bit too, I don't know. I don't know what the right word is, like too dramatic, too overly dramatic during some of these scenes. It is interesting. Like I liked especially the start when he's like fighting the bureaucracy and how ridiculous it is. But towards the end, he does go a little bit off the rails. And then when he's talking to people about what is happening, he gets really, really overly dramatic. It conveys the point. But again, I thought it didn't really fit his character. But in any event, he basically ends up calling a favor with the lieutenant colonel saying, like, you are going to get us these visas. They need visas. They're running out of time. I don't care how. I don't care what you do. You're going to get these visas. So John calls in this debt and explains basically, like, he needs to get Ahmed out because he has this like debt to Ahmed. Ahmed saved his life, got him out. The only reason he's there is because of Ahmed. And now Ahmed is like hiding for his life, fearful with his family. And that has been like eating it at Kinley. And so he has not been able to think about anything else. He said he hasn't been able to sleep because this debt is hanging over him. So he is going to go and do something about it. So while the lieutenant colonel is trying to get the visas, he goes to Afghanistan somehow and hires this team to try to get Ahmed out of there. Now, unfortunately, when he gets there, the team gets another mission that they have to do, so they can't help him out then. They say, we'll help you in 3 days. But Kinley is worried about Ahmed. He's like, he doesn't have 3 days. We got to go. So Kinley and the kind of operative who is in charge of this team come to a decision. Kinley's going to go try to find him. And if he can find Ahmed, then he will radio in the coordinates and that team will deploy. Like the guy's like, I can't give you my entire team to search for this person, but if you can find him, like we can go in and extract, like we can do like a surgical operation, extract, get him out. We can do that. So Kinley agrees, even though he probably should have waited 3 days. He agrees. He doesn't speak the language. He is a wanted person. It doesn't seem like the best decision. But you know what? It wouldn't be much of a kind of tense war movie if he didn't do this. So he decides to go anyways. He ends up finding Ahmed through Ahmed's brother. And also the lieutenant colonel comes through and he has the visa. So when he gets to Ahmed, he's like, I've got everything for you. I've got everything ready. Let's go. Get your family. We got to go now. Ahmed and his family pack up. They go. They're going to a rally point on a dam. They're going to get extracted. Everything seems to be coming up roses. But the Taliban recognized Kinley specifically and also recognized Ahmed when they were talking. And so now they call in their troops and it gets hairy very quickly. There's a lot of people that come in. There's a big firefight. Ahmed, his family, Kinley, and this driver that worked with Ahmed's brother are all fleeing to get to this dam to try to extract. but it turns into a shit show, and there's a firefight. There's all these people. So they're fleeing, they get to the dam. They basically have a last stand on the dam because the extraction team's not there. The Taliban are like streaming in, they're going through all their ammo. Eventually everyone runs out of ammo. They seem kind of resigned. And that's when kind of all hell breaks loose. You see just waves of machine gun fire. The enemy gets like decimated, and what you see next is there is an AC-130. I think it's an AC-130 that is taking out the Taliban, and also there is a attack helicopter that goes in and starts taking out some of their trucks. There is some big firepower coming to support them, and you're like, what's going on? Well, when the extraction team realized who this was, they realized it was John Kinley, who is like a war hero at this point because he got out of Afghanistan. He was up for a medal. He is like on the Taliban's most wanted. And Ahmed, who is also on the Taliban's most wanted, they're like, okay, you know what? This might be bigger. And also we think that maybe the brass might want to get involved in this. So they get the full-on military involved, and they send some extra firepower. So thankfully for Kinley, Ahmed, the family, everyone, there is some big-time firepower that comes and takes everyone out. And this is good because at that point they were pretty much done. They had no ammo. The driver had been shot in like the arm. The Taliban was closing in. They were about to go, but they're able to get extracted. The team extracts him from the dam. They make it onto a plane bound back for America. Ahmed and his family are there. Hope the driver is also there because he is not going to be living a good life if he doesn't get out now, because he was recognized. He's been shot. He's definitely been keyed out as someone who is going to probably be on the Taliban's wanted list. I hope he made it out. We don't know if he did, but we know that Kinley, Ahmed, and his family made it out. Then we see this kind of like epilogue scene that talks about how on August 30th, 2021, the U.S. departed Afghanistan and the Taliban seized control, and more than 300 interpreters were murdered in that time, and also thousands are still in hiding because of their work with the United States. You have this covenant between the interpreters who were working for the military and the military, where they were like supposed to work and then they would get accelerated visas, and that didn't happen. That's kind of the main thrust of the film. So after this scene, you see Kinley and Ahmed on the transport. They're kind of like look at each other, kind of like nod to acknowledge like Ahmed saved Kinley's life, and now Kinley has saved his life. And the really kind of big thing in this scene is that they look at each other, they kind of acknowledge each other, and then Kinley closes his eyes and can finally get some sleep. I guess the weight has finally been lifted because he has paid his debt, and he is finally able to sleep on this plane. Now I imagine when he lands, he will get all sorts of paperwork and court martials for UCMJ violations. Probably not, but I don't know. He like snuck into a country. He extracted someone. He killed people. He used a non like official channel. There's probably some violations. And earlier he gave alcohol to a minor. But it wouldn't be a great movie if he ended with a court martial. So we end on the plane. Everything's happy. Everyone survives. And that is Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. It comes to theaters on April 21st, 2023. I think you should watch it. I liked it very much. It kind of has Guy Ritchie's trademark writing, is this wonderful music that is becoming like a hallmark for him. But it also is a little bit more action-oriented, a little more dramatic than some of his last movies. So I definitely think you should check it out. And if you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.